In this next section, we're going to get into roles, teams, and leadership, and somewhat trying to align Agile Scrum roles with typical organizational roles, along with the leadership teams, and sort of try to divvy up who's doing what. In this video, the leadership takeaways are four things: the roles, the Agile Coach profile, leadership, and when we're here, we're actually talking about servant leadership, and then flow mapped to teal thinking. In this picture, I use the 4-box that we use in the transformation slide deck extensively, and we use it in this deck as well quite a bit. And you have the 4 different boxes, the individual, team, product, and organization boxes. Scrum roles shouldn't be confused with your title in the organization. Theoretically, a CEO could also be a product owner. Okay, a program manager could also end up being a Scrum Master. So, depending on the situation and depending on the need, the roles that you have doing Agile or Scrum are pretty well delineated. In Scrum, there are only 3 roles. There's the product owner, the Scrum Master or team level facilitator, and then the developers. So those are the 3 key roles in Scrum. And in this picture, they're all the ones in green. Now, the green dot in the middle primarily represents the Scrum Master, a little bit the product owner, but primarily the Scrum Master, in that a Scrum Master should be able to work in and work with all 4 of these areas. Scrum Masters need to work with the team members individually, the teams as a team, the product owners, as well as a little bit with the organization in helping to coach the organization on best Agile practices. Now, where it starts to get a little messy is when I've added in the yellow circle. And I've tried to do these circles in such a way so that, for example, the yellow circle really touches 3 of the boxes. So an Agile Coach is not a Scrum Master, but an Agile Coach should do everything and can do everything that a Scrum Master would do. And basically, it's building on the competence of a Scrum Master or team level facilitator. So the Agile Coach is going to work more with the product owners, with the as well as the Scrum Masters, and the Agile Coaches are going to also work with the Enterprise Agile Coaches, who are that outer blue circle that work primarily on the right-hand side. As I've stressed throughout this video series, product includes programs, processes. It will include people like the program managers, the line managers, business owners, product managers. All kinds of managers will be sitting in this upper right-hand corner. And this is where this corner gets a little fuzzy, because if you remember the different languages, this box speaks both the language of management and the language of leadership, which is the lower right corner. The Enterprise Agile Coach does everything that an Agile Coach and a Scrum Master can do, plus they work primarily with portfolio level and up, working with the senior and executive management and the C-level, helping them understand what it is that they need to do in order to enable and to create the culture that will enable the teams that are trying to use agile and high-speed methodologies and things like that, they need to build the culture that's going to enable that. They need to build the culture that's going to create protected environments for those teams. They need to build the culture that values the team feedback. They want to build a culture where the teams are able to freely and openly discuss with the leadership what it is that they're trying to achieve. So it's both bottom up and top down at the same time. One of the things I think you'll notice is that throughout most of the presentations, I use a 4-box that includes individual, team, product, and organization. And in product and organization, I include, on the product side, program management, process management, line management, business owners, and in the organization box, that includes portfolio management upwards to the C-suite. And I know that purists or agile purists don't like to talk about hierarchies, but they exist. They're not going to go away. That's just how humans organize themselves. You can talk about networks all you want, but in the end, there needs to be one vision, just like Simon Sinek was saying in a couple of his recent videos. So I use this 4-box all over the place, and it's very useful in explaining concepts and helping people understand not so much how to compartmentalize all of this, but really to be able to understand the differences between those 4 areas. What I have found interesting is that the focus of the Agilists, especially Agile purists, has been focused primarily down in the team corner and in the individual corner. Over on the product side, there's been much less of a focus, and on the portfolio side and upwards, well, you might as well just ignore it because not a lot has happened there. But what's interesting is that we've had about, between project management professional and most of the other Agile certifications, there's about 1.7 million people who have certifications that are running around. And somebody recently did a tally of all the Agile certifications they could find, and the list was over 100 certifications long. And so people are going to get certification fatigue soon. And there's only so many certifications a person's willing to do before they just go, okay, there's no value add to this, and it's not answering the question, what's in it for me? PMP, last I checked, last fall, around October, November, there are around 932,000 active PMPs worldwide. For the CSMs, it's around, it's hard getting numbers out of them. Last number I had was 450,000. For the professional Scrum Master, they had 316,000. And if you include PMI's ACP, that's almost another 30,000. So all that together adds up to roughly 1.7 million in the left 2 boxes. And so the focus of Agile has been on the team and individual levels. Of course, they've been working with the product, and if you look at certified product owners or professional Scrum product owners, might be up around 100,000 at one point. I think it was like 50, 60,000, but I'm sure it's grown since then. So that's my best guess. And if you look at program level with non-Agile certifications, the program management professional has 2,000. And if you look at the portfolio management professional, they have 450, and 2 of those were in Sweden. And so you can already see immediately that there's a major imbalance in and focus that was over on the team and individual boxes. And later in this presentation, we'll go through the impact that that imbalance has and the communication issues that that causes. An Agile coach, by the way, we're going to break this out into some additional pieces here. An Agile coach, by the way, is someone who is already been successful as a team level facilitator and or a Scrum Master. So they can already do everything a Scrum Master can do. Plus, they need to do at least one of each of these in these 4 different areas. And thank you to the Andy people for doing such a cool picture. Hope they don't mind that I borrowed this and I'm giving them attribution under the Creative Commons license, no derivatives 4.0 type of thing. And over on the left there, an Agile coach needs to either be a really good teacher or a good mentor. And that's on the left-hand portion. There in the middle at the top, they need to be an Agile Lean practitioner, which means it goes well beyond just Scrum and Agile. When you're into Lean, you're talking about theories of constraints and Toyota Lean production and Lean manufacturing, even things like Lean Six Sigma, whatnot. Anything that has anything to do with Lean, that it's a much broader and wider practice than just Agile. Okay. Then, in addition to that, they need to be either a really good coach and or a really good facilitator. And then here at the bottom, you've got, they should at least have one of these 3, either technical mastery, transformation mastery, and business mastery. And they talk about being T-shaped. And T-shaped means you have one area where you're really good and the other smaller ones that are coming off the T, you're not maybe as strong in those areas. But I took this concept and I took it and I put it into these slide decks because it's important for people to understand that an Agile coach is a whole lot more than just a Scrum Master, and they should not use those terms as synonyms for each other. So this is partially an educational process for the organizations to be more specific and more succinct about what they're talking about when they're talking about a Scrum Master versus an Agile coach. Many times an organization will say, oh, well, we need a Scrum Master, but in reality, they need an Agile coach. So when I looked at this and started really digging into this a little more, typically, if you're looking at a starting point for an individual, they'll probably have either technical or business mastery. Those are probably one of the 2 starting points that they'll have for the down in the bottom. For being able to teach, it's quicker to get there versus mentoring. Mentoring means you better have battle scars in what you're talking about and what you're doing. You can't mentor someone if you haven't actually been able to stand in their shoes and do their role. So if you haven't done it, you're not going to be able to mentor, okay? Becoming an Agile Lean practitioner, it's maybe not as quick, but it's still quicker than becoming a mentor because you're talking multi-years in order to obtain those battle scars. Agile Lean practitioner, you can probably get pretty quick. Becoming a good facilitator, well, if you're a team level facilitator and Scrum Master, you probably already got that one. Becoming a professional coach, again, that takes time. That takes years. That takes experience. That takes battle scars. And then when you get to the bottom, transformation mastery. If you aren't able to succinctly and specifically delineate the difference between scaling as a rollout, scaling as in frameworks like SAFe, less Scrum at Scale, Nexus, things like that. Or that you can't tell the difference between transformation, and the first two scalings are more a tool set doing. Transformation gets into mindset. How do you change the mindset? And the fourth one for transformation is agile governance. How do you govern all of this? And so that one probably takes the longest for people to really come up the curve and understand. And so these pinkish salmon colored red ones, those take time. It takes time to come up the curve and be able to do that. So for me, I almost look at this at like almost two levels. A quicker level that can be done right away, and another level that just takes a lot more time, experience, and skill sets to be able to do those and do those well. So whatever you're doing, you need to differentiate for yourselves what are the things that we can add quickly and what are the things that we can't add quickly. And so this slide is just basically, you're either going to start with technical or business mastery, okay? You can probably get a fast kickstart helping people learn how to teach and facilitate courses and be good facilitators and get them up to lean practitioner, agile lean practitioner. In any organization that's already using lean production, you're going to be able to get your people up to speed more quickly being able to do this. Now, the ones that are going to take time is transformation mastery. The universe of people who have successfully done agile transformations is a very small universe. We know who each other are for the most part, and we all have our ways of working. And it's not to say that one way is necessarily better than another way, but we've spent the last 25 years doing this, learning how to do transformations for organizations and learning how to do it well. That's why I have a 4-hour training on transformation only. That's just for transformation. When you get into mentoring and coaching, again, it's like in sports. If you've not done the sport, how can you even hope to think that you could be a good coach or a mentor if you've never played the sport? We had a guy that contacted one of the companies I worked with in Stockholm, and he came from a classic waterfall background. And he asked the one person at my coworker, he was asking him, hey, you guys have this training coming up. I need to be able to take this 2-day training so that I can be the coach and mentor expert for XYZ customer. And my coworker asked him, are you serious? How many years did it take for you on the classic side to get to the level where you're at? He goes, 10, 15. And so he asked him the question of all questions, what makes you think that going to a 2-day course will bring you up a 15-year learning curve in just 2 days? Mic drop. The guy was like, hung up the phone, never came to the course, and I really don't know if he actually ended up being the expert, the agile expert for XYZ organization. If he did, oh my goodness, I feel sorry for the company that hired him to do that. It just doesn't happen that way. If you haven't been working with these things long enough, you don't have the skills, the experience, the battle scars, and probably even the ability to be able to even take on these types of assignments. So this isn't for the faint of heart. You'd better be prepared that this is a lot of hard work, and coming up the curve takes time. This is the mistake organizations make over and over and over again. They think that, oh, well, we need to go agile, and they don't count the cost. They don't count the cost in learning curve. They don't count the cost in time. It's not anywhere as inexpensive as they think. And getting everybody up the curve is going to be a major hurdle for most major large-size organizations quickly going agile. I have some ideas how to do that, of course, but for the majority of people out there, if they go through the standard, hey, let's go to the training and then let's start doing agile, and they spend half a year running into the wall wondering why it's not working because they didn't hire external coaches to help them. Even if they did hire external coaches to help them on some pilots, they realized very quickly that it's going to be really expensive to bring all our teams up to speed to this level. We have to build an internal capacity to be able to do this. And that's exactly what Ericsson did. And that's how they were able to, in their R&D division, they did an agile transformation about 10 years ago. And it's still going. And I won't explain why and how I know that it's still going, but it's still going. And I know a number of the coaches that were involved with that one. And so they helped Ericsson build up their internal capabilities, got them going, and they've been able to maintain the momentum for the past 10 years. That doesn't mean it's been perfect, but overall, on the average, they've been able to do it. When you get into the last quadrant, into level 5 leadership, hopefully you've got level 5 leaders living in the organization box. And hopefully you've got level 4 leaders in the product program process boxes with line managers and product managers and all the different managers that are in there. By the time you're to the team level box, hopefully you have competent managers who are able to be good Scrum Masters or team level facilitators. And so as you're looking at this comes from good to great. And a level 5 leader builds enduring greatness through a paradoxical blend of personal humility and professional will. It's almost like a iron will. And so that really is paradoxical. How do you be humble and at the same time maintain that professional will to get the things done? And so at level 5, you're transformational. You should be inspirational. It has everything to do with vision. And if you're going to transform the organization, you transform it through vision. And you have to communicate your vision for change 10 times more than you think you do. And so when you get to the Enterprise Agile coaching level, an Enterprise Agile coach had also better be a level 5 leader. And an Agile coach at least had better be a level 4 leader. Okay? Scrum Masters, level 3 is enough. And when you get into the traits of a level 5 executive, there's 12 of them. They're able to listen and empathize, they have high self-awareness, and they're able to persuade. Okay? Now, they have foresight, insight, and they can conceptualize, and they're able to do anticipatory vision, as we've shared earlier. In the core there, again, they've got the personal humility and the professional will, the proper balance of those two. A level 5 executive will also build community. They build protective environments, and they grow initiative, entrepreneurship, and learning. They create a culture of learning. Level 5 executives are also stewards. They have a healing mindset. A lot of the Taylorism that we've had during the last 100+ years has been extremely damaging to people. It damages their morale, it damages their spirit, it damages the person at multiple levels. And so a true level 5 executive will recognize the damage that's been done by management and figure out how are we going to help heal this. And they have a desire to serve others. Okay. And so, it's really important that they have a servant leadership mindset. And, they put the teams and the individuals' needs ahead of their own. Now, that doesn't mean that they become a slave to the organization. They only have 40 to 80 hours a week themselves. By the way, if you're working 80 hours a week, not sustainable, it's going to kill you. So be real about that one as well. So as you're thinking about how can I support my teams, how can I build protected environments for them, how can I build the community that every team needs, just like what was described by those team members that went and did the retrospective with the executive, and he said, this is what I want. Okay, so as a level 5 executive, you need to be able to do these 12 things and maintain your personal humility and maintain your professional will to get everything done. Now, management on the left, that's more like doing. It's the tool set view because it looks at structure, processes, tools, and tactical implementations. It looks at the hard skills, the programs, the training, the task masters, the goals and objectives. It's all the language of management. The leadership side of the equation, that's mindset. It's mindset and culture. And how do we transform? How do we use vision and VSPT? It's all the soft skills, understanding how to eliminate and mitigate the politics. It's being able to coach and mentor, being able to be a servant leader like we just talked through on these last two slides. It's also being able to clearly articulate the why and the purpose of everything that we're doing. When we're not able to do that, and to be able to do it like on a moment's notice, because if you're in a town hall and one of the employees asks a question about Agile or about vision, you as the leader cannot hesitate 1 second in your response coming back. You need to be able to be powerful, but in a way that maintains your personal humility, but also maintains your professional will. Balancing those two correctly are, in my opinion, the key to having a powerful Agile at the leadership level. So remember that the languages spoken on the left-hand side and the right-hand side are very different from each other. And we have to find a way to communicate in both of these areas so that the vision doesn't get diluted or even lost. Teal thinking is something that has popped onto my radar screen in the last 2 or 3 years. Actually ran into it in a evening workshop led by Lisa Atkins in Stockholm, Sweden, a couple years ago. And I found it very interesting. And a couple of the things that really popped out in that conversation and workshop that Lisa facilitated was that in at the leadership level in organizations, a majority of the people are going to be what they call orange individuals. And I found that interesting because those types of individuals tend to be the lead follower, get out of the way type of people who are drivers. Now, she didn't really say the other two on amber and green as far as their preferences, but we'll get into that in the next slide. The other thing that really caught my attention was that Lisa reported back on their findings for the people who have done the research in the teal thinking area is that only, if I remember the percentages right, only 6 or 7% of the people are even capable of teal thinking. So that's why I put that in the individual box, and we'll share a little bit more of that in the next slide. Let's start in the organization corner. And this includes everybody who are working from portfolio up to directors, vice presidents, C-suite, and even the board. As I sort of shared in the last slide, the leaders in this box tend to be pragmatic, success-oriented, complex logic individuals who question authority, they thrive on getting ahead, and they value freedom and achievement. And three of their main values are innovation, accountability, and meritocracy. So this goes back to what I shared in the personalities, where it would be analogous to the driver, and in this case, driver, where it's the lead, follow, or get out of the way type of individual. In the amber corner, that's the product development, program management, process management, line management, everything like that lives in this box. And what I found with the amber individuals is that they matched this section, this description matched their profile amazingly well. These types of individuals have an awareness of social roles and following authority. They prefer absolute truth. It's either black or white. They can see other people's expectations, but they tend to be dogmatic. Oh my goodness, I've worked with so many program managers who have been very dogmatic and been there myself and have done the same thing. And they have a long-term perspective. And so these are things that they value, including consistent process, size, stability, and hierarchy. That long-term perspective, especially for program managers, gives them the ability to see over a multiple year horizon and be able to look at the product, service, or result that we're trying to deliver and put it into a 3-year program and figure out, hey, this is what we have to do all along the way in order to deliver that ultimate product, service, or result. And so they might sort it and organize it into projects, but these days more and more companies are moving from project to product development processes. And so I think in a 5 to 10 year horizon, we're going to be seeing a significant change in how products are developed. And I don't think project management will necessarily go away, but it's going to change dramatically as it starts to absorb the culture, values, and attitudes of the people who work with agile methodologies, which is a really good segue into the team box. And in the team box, the color in this teal thinking is actually green. And when you start looking at the description of these individuals, they want fairness, community, equality of all perspectives. They desire justice for all, consensus, relationship over outcomes. And when you start hearing things like that, it reflects the Agile Manifesto and the 12 principles included in the Agile Manifesto. Their values include empowerment, a values driven culture, a multi stakeholder perspective, because the team knows that they have to satisfy the needs of just not the customer, but of all of the stakeholders that are involved in the development of the product, service, or result that they're trying to ultimately deliver. In the individual box, here's where I put teal. Because if you can only get 6 or 7% of the people that even have the ability to be teal thinkers, I thought, well, let's put that in the individual box because the other 3 boxes include individuals. Okay. Now, how we work with the other 3 boxes depends on if we're looking at it from the team perspective, the product perspective, or the organization perspective. So those are all lenses on the individual, and the other 3 areas are the 3 key areas in which they need to act and interact. Teal mirrors flow. Focus on inner integrity, and that kind of individual sees systematically. Flow gives you a whole bunch of frameworks, models, and tool sets, plus the mindset that you'll need in order to successfully navigate all the politics and people that you're going to run into in the other 3 boxes. Okay? In order to be able to do this, and I sort of like this, you have to be able to disidentify with your own ego, and you need to be purpose driven. Simon Sinek would talk about, hey, what's your why? And then even Simon Sinek will say what is even more important than your why is the vision. Okay? Purpose gives you the what we would call in flow the higher purpose to which you're aligning everything that you do in your work. Okay? So there's even a book out there called The Purpose Driven Life or something like that. You could look that up if you want to get a view on people who are thinking in that direction. Radical authenticity sounds a lot like radical collaboration. In radical authenticity, that means, in my view, that you need to be brutally honest with yourself and to be brutally authentic with yourself and understand how to be able to take that and work with other people. When we're talking about inner rightness as a compass, right there you're going straight to the 4R model, where we start with right truth, from which you distill your right values and attitudes, from which you will do right actions and hopefully get the right results. That's what the 4R model is about. It's exactly about doing that. Now, wisdom beyond rationality, that is interesting in that if you have a really good team, usually the wisdom of the crowd is better than the wisdom of the individual because you'll get so many other perspectives, and it helps to have a lot of different eyes on what you're trying to achieve or how to solve the problem that you're facing. And
when I'm looking at wisdom beyond rationality, if we look at it from a Judeo-Christian perspective, there's even an old proverb that says, "Do you want to be wiser than all your teachers? Study the law." And actually, if you look at law and how those are written, it's actually written as vision statements. Those are vision statements. So when you have a law that says, "Hey, we don't want people to murder each other," the inferred vision statement in that is, I want to live in a world that is murder free. I want to live in a world that is safe. Okay. My vision is to have a safe world. Okay. And so when you start getting into wisdom beyond rationality and what would take you beyond science and things like that, you need to be very careful to check the source and see what they're actually saying. Not all sources are equal. So, in summary, when I was looking at mapping teal thinking to the four lenses on transformation, if we understand that the majority of people that are in the organization box are probably going to be orange, and that a majority of the people that are working in the product program and process and line management box are going to be amber, and that at the team level, the green individuals are going to thrive there. I guess the goal would be to see how, if you could get teal individuals, because you're going to have 6 or 7 out of every 100. That doesn't mean you're going to have them on every team. But in the cases where you do, you're going to have an opportunity to get a lot more done because the focus will be on vision, mission, purpose, strategy, goals and objectives, and so on. And so it will create a different culture for each of those other three boxes whenever you can take a person who's teal and bring them onto the team. So it was an interesting presentation that Lisa gave. And I wanted people to understand that flow maps to all of these other types of methodologies.
So, when we look at some of the ideas from the last slide, and then we start to look at the 4 areas of transformation that you need to look at when dealing with politics, first you have to begin with the individuals and understand the intrinsic motivators that are really motivating them. So, individual excellence, autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Habits and time and attention aligned with a clear personal vision. So the individual's vision is key. If a person's not in alignment with their team, with their product, with their organization, you're going to have politics, okay? Or at minimum, a dysfunctional team member who's going to underperform, create friction, and yeah, probably fiction too, and create confusion, and could ultimately lead to gridlock. I've seen single individuals bring entire teams to a screeching halt. It's not fun to watch. For the teams, they need clear vision and goals with immediate feedback, and the team's skills need to be matched to the challenge that they've been given to deliver, whether it's a product, service, or result. And if there's a mismatch there, then that's going to violate the individual visions, could violate your product vision, and organizationally, and that's going to stall your plans from being delivered. In the product program process area, you need a clear vision, a clear minimum viable product, short cycle time to value, and an embedded customer in best case. That vision needs to be represented, and if the customer is not embedded in your product development, you have a high risk for politics erupting later, and then people will get into the blame game and The first reaction of the executives will be, who can I kick? And that's not the reaction that you want. For the organization, you need to have a clear vision, clear definitions, and distilled agreements that are crystal clear. You need a cogent plan that you can deliver and then iteratively drive to success through the lens of vision, continually checking back that everything that's happening in the other three areas is in alignment with the overall vision of the organization. That's it on the politics section. There's a whole lot more. But politics and navigating that in an organization boils down to making sure that you have agreements across the board with and in whatever you're going to do to deliver your product, service, or result that's either going to make the company money, save the company costs, mitigate or get rid of risks, or helps the company do the right thing. As I mentioned earlier, I really like using the four lenses: individual, team, product, and organization. And it's really helpful to sort roles according to those four lenses. We looked at the Agile Coach profile. What are the quick wins? What takes longer term development? And there's a journey to creating internal coaches, and that's not a short journey. To become a good coach can take multiple years because as the coach is learning, they're coming up a curve. Then we looked at leadership and level 5 leadership, which is servant leadership from good to great. We looked at the 12 traits of a level 5 executive, and we looked at management versus leadership. Finally, we looked at flow map to teal thinking. And with only somewhere between 5 to 7% of the people being able to actually be teal thinkers, the way I've mapped it makes a lot of sense. It's the orange color fits executives perfectly. The amber color fits program managers perfectly. The green matched teams perfectly, and it just sorts itself so well into that 4 box. It was a little bit mind-boggling that it basically sorted itself. But these are the things that you need to look at and be able to do. By the way, the application of this, you should be aware that there's no clear consensus in the world of Agile regarding roles. I tend to align with Agile Coaching Institute for what an Agile coach should look like. But for internal coaches, there are a ton of other business level coaching certifications that you can look at. But I believe that flow encompasses everything that you would need to become a very good agile or internal coach. Plus, flow, since it works with vision and then people, it's already exhibiting what you need for the level 5 servant leadership. And do you know what level leader you would be categorized as? And so these are hard questions that you need to ask yourself in your journey to becoming a really good leader and or executive in your organization.